Hello everyone, my name is Naguura, and today I'm going to be talking about the new upgrading system coming to Dragonflight in Season 2. First of all, I want to explain that Valor is going to be gone, so there's no more Valor points that you can farm in M+. It's all going to be the new upgrading system. The currency works for raid items, M+ items, crafted items, and outdoor items as well. The purpose for the system to be implemented by Blizzard is to basically unify the upgrading system across all PvE content, so you don't have different currencies for outdoor content and plus and so on. They also try to create a natural upgrading path as you do more difficult content as well, which makes sense. Now the system is for sure a little bit complicated to understand at first. So I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible and show you a graphic so you can understand it better. But do keep in mind that once you're in a game, once the season starts, you will actually have an easier time understanding the system as you go, as you loot the currency and as you go to the vendor and see how everything works. All right, so the new currency for the upgrading system consists of Flightstones, which is basically similar to Primal Chaos. It drops everywhere, so all of the PvE content will give you Flightstones. The only difference between Primal Chaos and Flightstones is that Flightstones are used for all upgrades, while Primal Chaos was really only used for something like professional items. But Flightstones in Season 2 are going to be used for M+ item upgrades, raid item upgrades, outdoor item upgrades, and profession upgrades as well. Now, the second currency that you will encounter is Crests. 15 fragments of a certain crest will turn into that crest. There are 4 different kinds of crests. They drop depending on the difficulty of the content that you're completing. So the higher the content you do, or the more difficult the content is, better the crests are, or the higher tier the crests are. And keep in mind there's 4 different ones. The lower crests, they drop in outdoor content and something like LFR, and the higher crests drop in raiding and in higher and plus keys. Now there is a seasonal cap of how many crests you can farm, very similar to how Valor used to work. Basically, if you don't play a week at all, like if you just don't log in for a week or even 2 weeks, it doesn't matter, you're not going to fall behind in crests, because once you come back, you can just farm all of the crests the seasonal cap is at. So now let's take a look at this graphic, because it's a little bit easier to understand. All right, so here you can see the crest name and the crest level. So the different crests are called Whelpling crests, which is the lowest tier. Then the second tier is the Drake crests. Then the third tier is the Worm crest, and the highest crest is called Aspect. And here you can see where they drop. For example, the Whelpling crest will drop in LFR and in M+1 to 5 keys. In addition, which is not shown here, the Whelpling crest will also drop from world quests, from rare mobs in outdoor content, and so on. Then the Drake crest will drop in the normal mode raids and in a plus from 6 to 10. And in addition, Drake quests will also be able to be looted in outdoor content, but it's more difficult outdoor content and something like weekly quests. For example, community feasts, Dragonbane Keep. They weren't 100% specific yet on where exactly they drop, but they did mention community feast and stuff like that. Then the Worm crest, which is the third highest tier of the crest, will drop in heroic raid, and it will drop in +11 to +15 and plus dungeons. And then the Aspect crest, the highest upgrading crest, drops in mythic raid, and it will drop in +16 keys and upwards. Very similar to concentrated primal infusions and primal infusions. Another thing that I need to explain is that each item that you're going to be getting that is upgradable will also have a certain type, depending on where you got the item from. And this is explained here under gear ranks. So there will be Explorer gear, Adventurer gear, Veteran gear, Champion gear, and Hero gear. Now, this of course is pretty complicated to just remember the name of the gear, but it doesn't necessarily matter because you will know which type it is depending on the content that you do. So for example, Explorer gear is the lowest type of gear that you can get, and it's item level 376. It's basically just outdoor content that you will get this lowest Explorer gear from, because in a +2 key, you will already get 402 items, and 402 will already be a veteran gear. So this explorer gear is really like outdoor gear and really something that you get from low level content. Then adventurer gear is a little bit higher level, but it starts with 389, which is also not super high item level just yet, considering that a lot of people that come from season 1 might already closer to item level 410 or higher than that. And then you can see that there's the upgrade level. So depending on which item you get, so let's say you have an explorer 1 out of 8 item that you get, this item can be upgraded to a maximum explorer 8 out of 8. So you can never turn an explorer item into like an adventurer item, but the item level overlaps. So for example, an explorer 8 out of 8 item is the equivalent of an adventurer 4 out of 8 item. And it just keeps going like this. Now, whenever you see an overlap like this, you will never be able to loot a 5 out of 8 item. So whenever you get like a 389 item, for example, then it will be the next, like whenever there's 2 overlapping, you get the higher rank of the item, right? So if you get 389, it will be adventure 1 out of 8. Explorer 5 out of 8 will only be something that you upgrade an item into. Same goes for if you loot a 398 item, it will be adventure 4 out of 8. It will not be explorer 8 out of 8. That is just something you upgrade it into. When it comes to rating, I think the easiest to explain is that whenever you loot an item from LFR, you will be able to upgrade it to normal rate item level. When you loot an item from normal mode, you will be able to upgrade it to heroic item level. And whenever you get an item from the heroic rate, you will be able to upgrade it to mythic item level. That's easy to understand for rating. For plus, it's a little bit more complex because I guess it's a key range rather than like a difficulty. So it's a little bit harder to understand how far you can upgrade an item to. So if I do a plus 10 key, then I will get a 415 item. And if you go over it, this means it's going to be a champion 1 out of 8 item, right? So this 415 item that you just looted from a plus 10 or plus 9 key, you will be able to upgrade it all the way to champion 8 out of 8, which is a 437 item level item. Now the maximum upgrade that you can do is Hero 5 out of 5, which is the equivalent of 441 item level, which is basically mythic rating item level. But the only items you can upgrade to 441 are items that are hero on the hero path, and hero path will drop, which is 428 item level, and you can see what that is in plus. That is from a plus 17 key or a plus 18 key or higher. So if you do higher than 16, then the items you get there can be upgraded to maximum 441. All the other items that are a little bit lower, that are on the champion track, they can only be upgraded to 437. Now, one downside to the system that is different to what we had with Valor is if you get an item from a low and plus key, you will not be able to upgrade it all the way to max item level like we could with Valor points, right? So if I do, let's say, a plus 6 dungeon and get a 408 trinket, then that 408 trinket will be veteran 3 out of 8, and I will only be able to upgrade it to 8 out of 8. So that's 424 item level, right? I will not be able to upgrade it all the way to 441 like we used to do with Valor. So that is definitely something you have to keep in mind. So if you get a certain trinket on a low key, then you're not done farming the trinket. It means you will have to like actually farm it again on the highest track, on a hero track, to be able to upgrade it to max item level. So that is definitely a downside of the system. I do think that overall the system is cool. I like it that you also can upgrade rating gear, because that is not something we were able to do before, right? We only were ever able to upgrade plus gear and maybe certain outdoor gear, but you were never able to upgrade rating gear. So the upside is that we can upgrade rating gear or all gear now, not just in plus gear. But the downside is that certain items that you get from M plus, you won't be able to upgrade all the way if you don't have the certain crests. Now, the upgrading system does not require to have any certain achievements anymore, so you will not need KSM or KSH or whatever to upgrade your items to certain item levels, because they're tied to the crests, right? So as long as you have the crests, then you will be able to upgrade the item. And in addition, you will also need the Flightstones, but they drop everywhere, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Now, as I said, the aspect crests drop in Mythic in 16+, and as I talked about before, each of the crests has a cap. So you can have, per week, you can only farm 10 Whelpling crests, plus 10 Drake crests, plus 10 Worm crests, and plus 10 aspect crests. And then the week afterwards, you will be able to farm 10 again. So that is something you want to keep in mind. If you want to get all of the crests farmed every week, then you need to also do the content that actually drops them. So worm crests, for example, will be pretty important for mythic raiders because you can upgrade your heroic gear to mythic item level. The aspect crests are decently important for crafting gear, and I'm going to explain that in a second because that's a little bit different. You will not have concentrated primal infusions anymore, or primal infusions. They will be replaced by enchanted crests. And the way you make them is through a crafter. So you have to go to an enchanter, or you can do this through work orders or whatever, and you give them a certain amount of crests, and they will turn it into an enchanted crest. And then that crest you can use to upgrade your crafting items to that item level. You will still need sparks, season 2 sparks. So there will be new sparks. You cannot use the old ones for the higher item level. But if you have a new spark, a Shadow Flame one, then you can also upgrade the crafted items all the way to 447 item level. That is higher item level than what we were able to get through crafting gear in season 1. So it will be the equivalent of 421 item level of season 1, which is 447. And in season 1, we only had 418 maximum through crafting, so it will be a little bit higher item level for the crafting gear. Now, the amount of crests you need 3 worm crests to create an enchanted worm crest that you can then create a primal infusion item for, or you can increase a crafted item levels item with the primal infusion from season 1. If you want to upgrade a crafting item all the way to max item level, which is 447, then you will need an enchanted aspect crest, which requires 4 aspect crests to create basically the concentrated primal infusion, which is definitely a little bit easier than what we had in season 1, because in season 1 you had to farm 10 plus 16 or above dungeons to get 1 concentrated primal infusion, and now we only need 4 aspect crests to create 1 max item level crafted item, or 3 worm crests if you want the lower tier, which means you will probably have to do less content, especially because the aspect crests also drop in the mythic grade, not just in mythic plus. Alright, so that's it about the system. I hope I managed to explain it a little bit better for you. As I said, I think it's going to be a lot easier for you to understand once you're in game, and once you can see the things dropping, and once you can go to the upgrade person and you will see what you need for each as well. Each tier, I should mention this as well, is that it costs 1 crest, right? So for example, if I have a veteran 1 out of 8 item and I want to upgrade it to 2 out of 8, that will cost me 1 Whelpling crest. If I want to upgrade it from 1 out of 8 to 8 out of 8, then I would require 3 Whelpling crests and 4 Drake crests. So every tier is basically the crest that is written here in the crest level. The crests are definitely going to be decently important, and of course the Flightstones are also going to be decently important, so definitely make sure you somewhat understand the system for season 2 so you're not going to be completely overwhelmed. And as I said, I hope this guide helped you out a little bit. Alright, that's it from me for the upgrading system. I will also record a guide for what you should be doing the first and the second week of the patch. If that's something that interests you, then make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and more season 2 videos as well. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments below, or come over to my stream at twitch.tv/Naguura, and I'm happy to answer any more questions. Alright, thanks for watching and have a nice rest of your day.